Here's your word for the day from Calvary in Lake Havasu. Visit us on the web at calvaryaz.com.
Hey Calvary, welcome to your word for the day. I'm going to start out by reading you 5 verses from the book of Mark, chapter 15, starting in verse 1. And as soon as it was morning, the chief priests held a consultation with the elders and the scribes and the whole council, and they bound Jesus and they led him away and delivered him over to Pilate. And Pilate asked him, "Are you the king of the Jews?" And he answered him, "You have said so." And the chief priests accused him of many things. And Pilate again asked him, "Have you no answer to make? See how many charges they bring against you?" But Jesus made no further answer, so that Pilate was amazed. So we see a couple of truths here in this passage. First, we see the truth that Jesus is king. Pilate says, "Is this so?" And Jesus says, "Yeah, you've said that it's so." Jesus is king. He is the king of the Jews. He is the king of the world. And there's no debating that. Jesus is agreeing with that. The other thing that I want you to see here is that Jesus isn't quarrelsome or defensive. He has all kinds of false accusations being hurled against him, but he doesn't quarrel, he doesn't fight, and he doesn't get defensive. Now, Pilate is an interesting character here. You know, we know from reading the other gospel accounts that Pilate really knows what's going on here. Pilate knows that Jesus is innocent, that Jesus hasn't done anything wrong, and Pilate will pronounce that innocence. Pilate knows that his wife had a dream about Jesus, and his wife had come and warned him not to have anything to do with this man. Pilate knew that. Pilate also knows that the chief priests and the religious leaders, they're accusing Jesus out of jealousy. There's nothing that he's done wrong. They're just jealous of him and of his followers. But in the midst of this, Pilate doesn't acknowledge Jesus as king, not in his own heart. Pilate doesn't care that he's innocent and that he won't quarrel and he won't defend himself. Pilate will eventually turn Jesus over to be crucified. So what do we do with this today, you and I, as we read this? The first question that we have to ask, is Jesus our king? Is Jesus my king? Is Jesus your king? Does he call the shots in your life? Have you surrendered yourself to him as your Savior? And then as your Savior, are you following him and letting him rule and have his way? Jesus wants that for you because he knows it's what's best for you and it will make you the happiest. Then if he is your king, then are you following in his footsteps? Specifically, even right here, in not being quarrelsome and defensive. Boy, do you know how hard that is? Well, of course you do, because we're humans, right? We know how hard that is. When we're falsely accused, we want to fight back. When somebody says something about us, we want to get defensive. But our King, King Jesus, didn't quarrel and he wasn't defensive. He just endured the suffering patiently. He endured with kindness and he let the truth speak for itself. So if Jesus is your King today, I hope, one, you're celebrating that, you're following him, you're listening to his word, and I hope you're following his example, specifically in not being quarrelsome or defensive. Have a blessed day, Calvary.